Hello, my Astro family. This is Lada from astrolada.com. Here talking about the Saturn retrograde. So many people freak out and they say Saturn's becoming retrograde. It's going to be much harder. Nothing will work out, and that's not true. And I'm here to talk to you about the really positive sides of Saturn retrograde, because Saturn retrogrades every year for about 1/3 of the year, and this year is no exception. It just happened now at the end of May and will carry on to October 2021. But this time it's going to be actually even better than other years. But let's first start, what is the good of a Saturn retrograde, and we'll go through the 12 signs for this year. When Saturn goes retrograde, visibly it looks like it's moving backwards, and especially the most pivotal events connected to Saturn happen around the time it stations. And so basically 2-3 weeks when it's just stations, like it's moving forward and it slows down and it looks like it's staying in the sky, not moving for a couple of weeks, and then it starts moving backwards slowly. So around those 2-3 weeks, so now at the end of May and the first couple of weeks of June, is when you see the most pivotal events connected to Saturn retrograde. And then in October, when it stations to turn direct again, it will be the other peak of the events. So what is Saturn retrograde good for? Well, it's a time to double up efforts in some areas, depending where it is transiting, what house it rules. And it entails that you double up efforts about something that really works in your life. You never double up efforts in something that is not beneficial to you, So that's one of the good things. And we'll go through the 12 signs to see where you can double up efforts. And what happens? Yes, it's double efforts. It's, it requires that you're more disciplined, more organized yourself, that you have like a better plan as well to stick up with those increased efforts. But at the end of this period, you would have 2 times or 3 times more lasting results. Whatever you double up, your efforts about, you get to experience way more lasting, long-term, and way more powerful results. But it comes a bit later when Saturn turns direct. After that, you'll be harvesting those fruits later on. What else does it mean? It means that Saturn is the planet that gives you the power to say no to something. It is so important. Like my teacher Ernst Wilhelm says, he says, if I can have one superpower of the planets, I would want the Saturn willpower to know when to say no, to know when to say basta, enough. I've had it. We have so many people. That's one of the biggest problems, because of course Saturn is a malefic. It means when you can't say no, this is when the biggest troubles in life happen. When you can't say no to wrong friends, when you can't say no to wrong food, to wrong drinks, to wrong, careers, and you stay and take on more responsibility for something that you actually don't want to do anymore, you see? So that's another good thing Saturn retrograde, especially the period around the retrogradation, helps us. Usually some crisis situation can arise, or we've just had enough. It feels like you're up in some situation to here and your tolerance level is low and you're enough. I've had it. So what area are you going to say I've had it in regards to? We'll see for the 12 signs in a little bit. And so it might be people, it might be certain situations in your life, it might be saying no to yourself about something, or, And it's about putting boundaries. People say, oh, building up walls. Yes, it's so important to build up walls, guys. Yes, not in every situation. If you start building walls with your family, your partner, of course, but there's certain situations where it's so important to build walls and boundaries. It's very similar to saying no, putting some restrictions. And of course, it is about more self-discipline. And of course, another thing that Saturn retrograde is great about is do it again, do something again, repeat something, try harder, replace something, try harder. It's very similar to double up efforts, but especially it's very good for it's started to rain, so it's kind of distracted me a little bit. It's very good for revisiting something from the past and bringing back the things from the past that worked. You see, that's why I started making those short videos. Like, I stopped for a few years, and for some reason, just the moment Saturn went stationary, I started looking through my old videos when I used to do, I'll show up every 2-3 days and give you an update, not long one, 10-15, and then I went into making those 2 hours videos, and they started exhausting me so much, and I'm like, so I even stopped doing them. And I said, no, bring back the thing that worked. And I'm bringing back exactly when Saturn retrograded, and Saturn rules my horoscope. So I'm bringing back something that used to work, and I'll double up the other thing is I'll double up the efforts for my health and for my everything that I've built till now, and I'll take more care of it, because Saturn rules my ascendant, of course, and every time it goes retrograde or changes direction, I change my mind in a big way about something. The same matters for you, no matter what Saturn rules in your horoscope. You change your mind about something, and you see it from a different perspective, and you make more efforts in regards to something, or have the ability to say no and cut something out of your life. Usually those important decisions happens on the stationary periods, those 2-3 weeks of Saturn before it turns retrograde or direct. And this year it's even better because Saturn is in Aquarius. Aquarius is its Mula-Trikona sign, they say in ancient astrology. This means that's where it's happiest. Saturn is strongest there. So imagine how much more you can do in your life. And Saturn is beneficial there almost. So how much more can you do in your life during this retrograde period? This year than at any other year. Saturn will again be a little bit in Aquarius in 2022, and then it will be back in 30 years only. So once in a lifetime opportunity to really incorporate those Saturnian abilities, to build boundaries, to say no, to double up efforts on something, to bring back something from the past, revive it, or try it again, the ones that worked at least, whatever it worked. So let's go quickly through the 12 signs. For Aries, especially Aries rising, I want you to always check your rising sign. You can find it out on my website to calculate it, to see. Oh, you can also check my calendar. My transit calendar is for free. 50,000 people are using it already daily. And you see your transits for a whole week. You won't even need those updates from me there, because it's very specific for you. No one else in the world will have it like you. Basically, it shows you what a professional astrologer will tell you if you went for a transit reading or future prediction reading. Oh, those beautiful things. So Aries, rising sun or moon. Where do you double down your efforts? Maybe in some long-term goal. The 11th house for you rules long-term goals, something dream of yours, some big plan, some big project. Now is the back-breaking work. And maybe you have to fiddle with that plan or that goal. You have to, yes, it will slow down. Of course, when Saturn is retrograde, things move slower. It's normal in your big dream or goal, but it doesn't mean you will scrap it all out. It means you have to fix something here or there. Where do you put boundaries? Aries, you might put boundaries about your social life and say, enough, this friend, it's not working. Or about some social responsibility that you have, or some social situation that you're not happy about. You might end it, complete it, change your mind about that. You might, or because it's retrograde, you might bring some old friends of yours. Maybe you neglected some old friends. Maybe it worked with them and you allowed others that are not as good to you. And you might bring up or reconnect with some people from the past, and of course, the 11th house rules gains, and you might double down your efforts in situations that require that connected to gains for you. You might go back to an old plan of action in regarding to gains, or maybe some opportunity that came to you in the previous months or year that you never had the ability to kind of run through your fingers. It might come back, and that's an opportunity connected to gainfulness or connected to long-term goals. Taurus, sun, moon, or rising. Where do you double down your efforts in your career? Saturn is retrograding in your 10th house. You have a unique opportunity to do some really hard work regarding your career, your big professional responsibilities that might not pay off immediately, but when Saturn turns direct, or when Saturn moves out of Aquarius, maybe in a year and a half, you will see great results. but now is maybe fiddle with your career goals, change something here and there while Saturn is retrograde. Where do you say no to something as well? Again, in that sphere of career. You might say no to some authority figure that's been bullying you, for example. The 10th house rules, father figures, authority, bosses. Or you might just say no to some career or some career responsibility if it has outplayed its importance for you. If you find it no more meaningful. The waste, Saturn rules waste. So what is the waste? Streamline and make more minimal whatever is connected to your profession, because your responsibilities are doubling down there in some areas. So you need to cut off some other areas that are not working out so well. You see how it works, and say no to certain career responsibility. For those of you, for some others of you, Saturn might bring back some career opportunity that slipped through your finger earlier, or bring back some old project to work on, to perfect, to try it again, to do it better this time. What about Gemini, Sun, Moon, Rising? Saturn is going retrograde in your 9th house. Maybe you're going to change your mind, you see, retrograde line, change your mind about the belief system you have. Change your mind about a parent of yours. 9th house is connected to parents, or a teacher of yours. Where are you going to double down your efforts in something connected to long-term, doubling down your efforts in something connected to education, to higher knowledge. Maybe you're going to really try and learn even harder something connected to pre-qualification, for example. Or you might go back to all types of studies. This is the 9th house. Something connected to studies that you let go of, and now you come back to it because you actually realize that it's this type of study, it's important for you, you like it, it makes sense. You can say no to matters regarding as well certain, again, the 9th house is higher knowledge, pre-qualification, because Saturn gives you this power. So you might be able to have the strength to say enough is enough, is enough. I don't want to study this subject. That's another way. Or I don't want to study with this professor. The 9th house is foreign residence, travel, your beliefs. You might disconnect with certain beliefs and work on maybe digging out and return back to all the types of beliefs, something that you were raised with, but from a different perspective, regurgitated through your own philosophy somehow. You might feel that. Or it might be the time to double down efforts in teaching. If you're teaching something, double down efforts in some project regarding faraway countries, relocation to foreign countries, foreign travel, higher education, teaching. You see, nothing bad. And of course, yes, it might be a little bit delayed with matters there, but because Saturn is in a great sign, the final results will be amazing. Then if you're Cancer, Saturn's going retrograde in your 8th house. Where is it time to double up efforts? Maybe your mutual finances with your partner, with your business partner. Maybe on your plan how to receive from others. You might have to put extra effort to go more into the details in regards to maybe an alimony or money you're receiving from the government, or money that is, that is connected to another person giving it to you, or through your client's money as well as the 8th house. Double down efforts on there. Yes, things might slow down. Getting the results of that might take longer a little bit, but the final result will be very good. Plus, and more lasting. Plus, if someone owes you money, it might come back to you now, Saturn retrograde, Or if you've been waiting already, if you started some process about receiving some support, financial, emotional, or material, from another person, or you've been doing already efforts in regards to matters connected to receiving money from partnerships or clients or so on, or matters regarding to taxes, inheritances, insurances. Now, yes, things might slow down, they require more efforts, but you can bring back, if it's something in that matters that you've already started, you can start seeing the results of it now. It comes back to you, to be redone, to be revisited. Of course, 8th house is traumas as well, so it might be time to double down on working on some of your past traumas. Some traumatic experiences might come back to you to re-experience them, but that's also to assimilate them better. It's like a period when Saturn is retrograde, a period like the cow when it masticates and it first eats and then it's like regurgitates it into its stomach. So that's the same period for you with emotional matters from the past now. And this is great because once you, yes, it's emotionally intense, it's more difficult, but once you kind of masticate that thing, you can release it after that, because Saturn is the planet that releases waste. It gathers the waste, is like the cleaner. And the 8th house is the house of those painful emotions, traumas from the past, hang-ups that we have, obsessions, and you can release them. Usually towards the end of the Saturn retrograde, you'd have released a lot of dirt, let's say. Then if you are Leo, Saturn's going retrograde in your 7th house. What can you say no about? Maybe someone has been taking advantage of you. Maybe some relationship is not working. Now you have more power to say no. Maybe some contract or agreement you've had with someone is not working anymore. And now you can say no, or you can reject it, or it can end for you. Something can shift there. But that is okay, because whatever leaves you now, it's not something that is meant for you. It's not something that is really good for you. But at the same time, Saturn can allow you to double down efforts in those areas. So if it's the right contract, the right agreement, the right thing to sell or buy, the right relationship, the right business partnership, this indicates a time where you double down your efforts with this person or with that contract and agreement. Of course, and you double down trying to make it work, and you start seeing relationships with others from a bit of a different angle. You see them a bit more, and you learn how to put boundaries with others as well. Maybe you need to put boundaries with certain people and to say no, and that teaches you how to do that now, the Saturn retrograde. If you have Virgo, Saturn retrogrades in your 6th house, which means you have the power to say no to, much stronger now while Saturn is retrograde, to certain unhealthy habits and routines of yours. If you wanted for a long time to you've been planning, if you've been planning for a while now to double down efforts on a diet, double down efforts on taking care of your health, on some workout routine, this will be the time to do it. And you have the self-discipline, plus you have the ability to say no to the unhealthy habits. This is the power Saturn gives you, say no to the unhealthy things. And you can even bring back from the past if something worked with your diet. Maybe you stopped in the past drinking alcohol or eating dairy and you felt much better, but you started again. Now Saturn going retrograde there, you can double up and bring back from the past that works, because you realize, oh, it worked, I'm going to do it again. 6th house rules your work as well. And debt, sorry, let's go debt. Double down efforts on eliminating debt. 6th house is service, giving service and helping. Well, Saturn can allow you to say no if someone's been taking advantage of you too much. Maybe some service or help you've been giving to others might be too exhausting, too demanding, and you're like, enough, that I've had enough. You change your mind about it. But if it's the right kind of work that you're doing, the right kind of job or project or service, you double down your efforts with it. Yes, it gets a bit harder. Maybe you have twice as much responsibility than other times, and the final product and result, if you're completing some project or whatever, might take longer to manifest until Saturn turns direct. But whatever you put double down efforts to right now, it will give you much longer lasting positive results when Saturn turns direct in regards to your career, work, duties, responsibilities, or debt as well. Okay. And doubling down efforts, saying no. Oh, some old career or job or project might come back to you for you to work on it, to improve it, to make it better, to integrate it somehow. Or some incomplete task from the past. Or unfortunately, sometimes when Saturn goes retrograde in the 6th house, some old health issue can appear, some chronic condition can be triggered, or something that was invisible till then can come to the surface. So you have to double down efforts again on taking care of your health. But the final result can be that you get rid of this health problem. Now, if you are Libra, you can double down your efforts in regards to some creative projects during the summer till the autumn, because that's Saturn goes retrograde in your 5th house. and you can make it way more perfect, masterful, trim off the unnecessary things from this creative project. Maybe you've been working on a website, but it's not something brand new. It's something that you've already been working. Maybe you're working on a brand, maybe something creative project that requires your unique input and your unique ideas. It's not someone telling you, do this. No, it's something that it's creatively inspired by yourself. So if you have your own business as well, it's your own baby. So double down efforts on some creative project, on some business. If it's your own business, trim it, streamline it, make it more minimalistic, more masterful. And you'll see the great results by the end of, by the end of Saturn retrograde, when it turns direct. You might decide, what do you have the power to say no to? Someone taking advantage of you romantically, fifth house rules romance, or even to say no to certain behaviors of your children. Say no and put boundaries with how others take and give and receive love to each other. Some people are not worthy of you giving them your love. I mean, everyone should be loved, but you can't love the whole world. And now you realize, who do I love? How do I regulate? What boundaries do I put in my love life? Whether you're married or no, doesn't matter. And fifth house is self-esteem. Self-esteem, yes. Self-confidence. And you might say, what is blocking my self-confidence? I feel like so minuscule, smaller. I don't feel like, you start to realizing, what is it that's blocking the inner lion within me to roar, to self-express, to be creative, to feel confident. And you're gonna say no. You have more strength to say no to those things that are belittling you, making you smaller, making you feel less than the lion that you're inside, that is smashing your creative potential. You can also, during this period of Saturn retrograde, put more self-discipline in regards to creative projects, in regards to, I think we mentioned everything, yeah. All right, and maybe some old creative project might come back to you to be revived, to bring back what's worked, and in some extreme cases, some love, romantic interest from the past can come to some of you. Maybe, especially one that was maybe more painful, that there wasn't closure. You might get a chance during this Saturn retrograde in your fifth house to get that closure and to free yourself from that. It might be still painful, but that's a possibility. Watch out for it. If you are Scorpio, Saturn goes retrograde in your fourth house. It might give you the ability to double down efforts in regards to maybe building a home, fixing something at home, in regards to fixing the relationships with relatives and extended family. Maybe you haven't been in touch with relatives and extended families, and you come back again, you reconnect again, But also it will give you the power to say no to toxic family members or to toxic environments around you. Home, maybe you would have had enough of living in a certain place and you're basta, I don't like it here anymore. Your mind changes and you finally have the power to say no to a certain family situation, to a certain family development, to a certain family member, or to a certain living situation. You're like, I've had enough living in this filth, or I've had enough having this, the garden looking like that. I am going to double down efforts, and yes, it will take longer. Maybe if you're doing repairs or fixing something at home, or having to double down efforts to care for some family member. That's another thing that this can work as. Okay, and some parenting responsibilities can come, double down efforts on parenting responsibilities, but also streamline your parenting style. Streamline it if it's maybe you incorporate more self-discipline around your parenting style, maybe self-discipline around your house that integrates even further while Saturn goes retrograde there. Maybe you become a more serious or more responsible parent, or parent that puts certain boundaries and certain more self-discipline, or that parents more in a more sleek, streamlined way. Okay, if you are Sagittarius, Saturn goes retrograde in your third house, which means that maybe teaches you to put boundaries to who you communicate with. Maybe cleaning up, streamlining, making simpler, less busy your social accounts. Maybe third house is also clients and interactions with clients, and you might cut off decide that, I should not be focusing on those clients or whatever, or on those projects, because third house is also commercial projects of any sorts, it's connected a lot to business and working in a small group environment on certain projects that requires your skill, mind. So you might have to double down efforts in such matters, and they'll show their results towards the end of the year. So if you're working on some business career project that requires writing, speaking, talking, your own skills, double down efforts, the final results can be fantastic. Or you might have to even remove certain of such responsibilities, administrative responsibility, and say no to those that don't work, but also the ability to say no to, and to put boundaries with siblings, with relatives, with neighbors, with mates, to be more self-controlled there. The ability to retrain now and to say no to certain thoughts. The third house is your mental narrative. How do you talk to yourself? And you become much more aware of the negative way you talk to yourself, and Saturn gives you the discipline to say no to those negative things as well, and to start retraining your brain, how you think, how you structure your thoughts. Some old project from the past can come to you as well, Sag, that you started working, and now you can bring out the things that work there on this project that requires your skill, writing, speaking, something like that. Or maybe you can reconnect with old mates, someone that you had, old mates from the past and relatives. If you are Capricorn, Saturn goes retrograde in your second house. You might have the ability to say no to certain behaviors that are not good for your finances and your self-worth. Maybe you can say enough of spending here. You can control your spending more. Maybe you can say enough of those possessions. I don't need them anymore. And I'm just creating a clutter here. Why am I holding on to those things? And you can just throw out a lot of stuff. The more you keep things, the more stagnant the energy becomes. They need to be flow with your possessions, with if you want new to come. So now it can help you, the Saturn retrograde, to change your mind about your habits with finances, with resources, with assets. You're thinking around that, and you do the hard work of restructuring those thoughts, those attitudes. You might even have to say no, and give you the power to say no in regards to money, to who you give and what you do with your money, or some project that you're working on for money purposes. You might say, I don't want it, enough. Or you might just, if it's really important for you, can double down your efforts in some project that will bring you financial stability down the line, especially when Saturn starts turning direct. You can double down efforts with regards to how you eat, your food that you put in your body. You can have more self-discipline, and you can have the power more to say no to certain foods that are not good for you. You can have extra power to say no, for example, to dairy or to alcohol or whatever it is, something that you're eating. And now you do really during the Saturn retrograde, the ability to actually instill that habit of this more restricted or more, let's say, self-disciplined way of eating, to implement it deeply into your routines, into your reality. So by the time Saturn turns direct, it's no longer such an issue for you. You can eliminate certain foods. You can eliminate waste from your life. You can eliminate more easily, with more willpower now, with more discipline. Saturn gives you that. Things that also, like possessions and so on. If you are Aquarius, Saturn goes retrograde in your first house. And what I noticed is that I suddenly became way more organized and changed my mind how I'm gonna live. And I said I'm gonna have way more healthier routines about my body. I brought back diet that I've tried earlier when Saturn was retrograde, a few months, when I lost like 6-7 kilos, that's 12 pounds. And I said, I'll bring it back. So and usually you make the decision because it's in your first house, Saturn rules you. And I made the decision, I'll bring back certain lifestyle that will affect my body and my health, because the first house is you, your body, your health. And I'll bring it back, and it worked before. You see, Saturn says, this worked, I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna double down my efforts. I'm gonna be much more serious now. But also, Saturn will give you the ability to put boundaries for your whole life, for yourself, to say no to yourself. To say no to, I was talking with Radhi, and she's also Aquarius rising, and she said, I congratulate myself every day in the last few weeks when Saturn in the first house. I finally learned to say no to others. I finally learned to say no even to me, to my, all of us have impatience, or we would rather easy, fast gratification. Well, when Saturn transits your sign, especially the ascendant sign, it allows you to have the no power to those, delayed gratification, later. And you can bring back, you can also double down efforts on taking care of your body, double down efforts on some new project that you started already earlier. It's not a brand new project, or bring something back from there. You might revisit an old part of yourself as well, of who you are, and examine what is it you need to remove from your whole life generally. And some new, okay, we said that. Okay, Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, especially Rising. Saturn goes retrograde in your 12th house. You can double down effort to eliminate some waste from your life. At 12 houses to end, to let go, especially unprocessed and regurgitated past life emotions, or emotions from the previous 30 years. And you might even notice in your dreams that you're dreaming a lot more about the past. Things from the past are coming there. Things from the past are trying to grab your attention, so you can get a closure and release them. 12 houses, vices and self-sabotaging behaviors like addictions, and so you can double down efforts on that. And such behaviors, it's not necessarily physical addictions, also any self-sabotaging behaviors. Maybe you keep allowing someone to take advantage of you. Maybe you allowed someone too long, in your life, or and you keep sabotaging yourself. Well, Saturn going retrograde in your 12th house is gonna allow you to really go introspect. What are the things that are really worth keeping, and what are the things that you can eliminate from your life? And it will allow you to do it. It gives the power to say no to such things. 12 house rules hidden enemies as well. What is hidden enemies? Our own behaviors many times are hidden self-sabotaging, or even to kind of out a hidden enemy, actual hidden enemy, that someone who does things behind your back, someone who talks bad about you, someone who takes advantage of you. Those are our hidden enemies that pretend to be friends or something like that. We think they're friends, or we think we can trust our partner, but he's doing something behind our back. Saturn retrograde can bring those issues, and you can say, enough. I've had enough of this bullshit. I'm not gonna let those people, that's like parasites. So it's like someone who is sucking out your blood without you seeing it, and you're gonna start taking those things from you. Also, it can mean that you double down efforts in something connected to faraway countries, faraway place, if you're trying to relocate to a foreign country, or if you're doing some project abroad, or double down efforts on spiritual activity of some sort. Maybe you're learning to meditate or whatever. Maybe you're learning to stay in silence, whatever. Saturn retrograde will bring you that. Or you can bring back from the past some spiritual activity that you did before that worked. Maybe you used to meditate before. Maybe you used to write gratitude lists. Maybe you used to do visualizations about the future, but you stopped, and now Saturn goes retrograde in your 12th, and you're like, I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to be much more committed. I'm going to keep what worked then and perfect it. And you might be completing some project connected to foreign places while Saturn is retrograde, and doubling down efforts, or connected to research, deep research of some sort, because 12th house rules research, and something connected to far away, but you kind of doubling efforts in some such areas. So there you go, you have it. This is my first resume